Hello, friends, and welcome back to another set of malicious compliance stories. Our first story takes us back to one poor stockworker shift when a middle-aged man stormed through the aisles convinced the store was hiding corn on the cob. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. All right, let's get into it. Customer accuses us of hiding corn and having corn parties due to a corn shortage that was not happening. This was 3 to 4 years ago. I was 16 or 17 at the time, and this was my first job at a somewhat big grocery retailer. I was working stock this day. I was in the noodle aisle when I feel a tap on my shoulder. It's this middle-aged gentleman. He just looks at me and says the word corn. I told him that we have canned corn and frozen. He then says he specifically wants corn on the cob. I walk him over to produce, and we're out. This is normal for the time of year. It's winter. We have frozen corn on the cob, but he said the freezer ruins it. He starts to throw a fit, saying that we're hiding the corn for ourselves due to the corn shortage. I don't think there was a corn shortage. I explained to him that it's out of season and harder to get in the winter time. I think this store does have it from time to time in the winter, but it's mostly limited to cans and frozen. He asks for the manager. Now, the manager was a tough but fair woman. She told everything how it was. I call her and she comes to the area. He imminently goes off about the hidden corn again, but then says one of the funniest things I've ever heard at work. He tells the manager he knows about our corn parties. Her and I both bust out laughing. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Corn's good, but who would have a party with corn? He then says we're not taking him seriously and his wife will be very angry when she hears about this. My manager says there's nothing she can do. He raised his voice a bit now and just spouted off nonsense about the wrath of corporate will come down upon us, but then calms down once he realizes he's making a scene over corn. The manager walks with me for a bit to make sure he doesn't bother me and tells me I did a good job and it's okay that I laughed at something that ridiculous. Let's start with the obvious. This man really thought there was a black market for corn on the cob operating behind the freezer section. Like somewhere in the stockroom, there's a secret door that opens to employees doing the cha-cha surrounded by corn decor and a DJ shouting, "Who's ready for the shock of the century?" The fact that he said, "I know about your corn parties," with a straight face is incredible. That's not a customer complaint. That's a conspiracy theory in a grocery store. And our next story. Target? Walmart? Nah, he's a physical therapist. I'm a physical therapist that works in a large hospital in my city. As a PT, I wear slacks and polos, have a badge with my pick, name, and credentials. This particular day, I was wearing a blue polo and khakis. One day, while on my lunch break, I just had to get out of the hospital, so I head over to Target to grab a few things the wife needed. Literally, every time I go to any store wearing a polo, khakis, and a name tag, I will inevitably get asked for some help from somebody. This particular day, a sweet 50-ish is trying to look 20-ish woman, we'll call her Karen, approaches me. She asks if I know where the automotive aisle is. I say yes, it's about 8 aisles back in that direction, and I point. She asks if you have something, and I say I believe they do, and then I get back to my honey-do list. 5 minutes later, I'm in the linens aisle with a stack of sheets and towels when Karen approaches with a manager in tow, gesturing wildly in my direction. "This is the guy. This department manager could not be bothered to help me find my amber blinker fluid," or whatever. At that moment, the employee, clad in a red polo, khaki pants, and radio, looks me up and down and says, "Ma'am, what in the world gives you the idea this is a department manager for Target?" If anything, judging by his shirt and pants combo, he could possibly work for Walmart. But as I see on his name tag, the hospital logo, and then that DPT underneath, this picture probably stands for Dr. Physical Therapy. I'd say he did his best to get you to the right aisle in the first place. Karen huffed and puffed and said, "Doctor, my butt. Dip crap needs to get a real job." Employee said, "Ma'am, walk away." She started to interject, and employee said, "Begone," and pointed to the front of the store. Totally dejected, she walks out with a huff. I'm just standing there with a WTF look on my face and hadn't said a word yet. Then the employee just busted up, and I just said, "That was weird, right?" He said, "Thanks for the laugh," and then told me he was going to be applying to PT school in another year or so. I gave him my card and told him to come shadow me for his application hours. He was a super great kid. After he finished up his shadowing hours, he asked me to write a letter of recommendation for PT school. I included this little story in my letter, and he said at each of his school interviews, the interviewer made it a point to bring up this little story. He was offered spots in 2 different PT programs and graduates in 1 year. If somebody really is looking for amber blinker fluid, then I'm not surprised they act that way. Reminds me of the story of the Swede that put beer instead of motor oil in his German car. Oil in German is öl, and öl is the Swedish word for beer. And our last story. And our next story. When a crazy neighbor tried to claim my property. I live on a long, skinny parcel with a small house up front and 15 minutes of birdsong out back. Our street snakes along a little mountain valley dotted with backyard hot springs. Most folks pipe theirs indoors. A few, like me, have a stone-lined tub fed straight from the source. A shallow stream threads the backlot lines like a silver shoelace. We all use it. Jay on my right built little pools for his kids. 2 doors down has a kitchen garden, and I irrigate peppers and fruit canes through a perforated hose. The only sour note was my left side neighbor. Let's call her CN for crazy neighbor. When I bought the house, the sellers warned me she'd once sued them, claiming the back corner should be hers. The judge tossed it. They told me gently, don't engage. I tried anyway. Her kids brought cookies my first week. I invited the family over for a get-to-know-you barbecue. We hadn't even set down the potato salad before CN announced the neighborhood rules, park only where she approved, quiet by 9 p.m., and here's where my smile died. Kids could play anywhere along the stream, even on private property, and everyone shares the hot spring. Not my hot spring, I said as politely as I could. No one in my yard without permission. She scoffed. Everybody's fine with it. I canvassed the block the next day. Everyone was not fine with it. She writes her own laws, Jay said. Serial suer. She took down that pizza place over peanut oil nobody used. His advice, avoid. A week later, I came home to find her 3 kids splashing in my hot tub. The lid's heavy. An adult had opened it. I told them to leave. They told me, Mom says it's ours. I repeated myself with the full weight of a homeowner's liability in my voice. They left. I bought padlocks for the side gates and ordered cameras. When I got back from the hardware store, CN was in my driveway demanding to know why I'd kicked her kids out of their spring. I told her she was on camera, bluffing at the time, and to leave. She huffed away, but the nitpicking began. My fence stain, my trees, her stream. Jay would occasionally materialize to tell her to buzz off. It was almost funny until it wasn't. 3 weeks later, I left town for a friend's wedding. Motion alerts pinged my phone, her kids tromping through my garden, stomping the shishitos. On the drive home, I got another alert, and this time I pulled off for gas and saw a crew in my yard with a rotary hammer trenching from my tub across the fence line. CN stood there in sunglasses, pointing like a general. They were hard plumbing my hot spring into her yard. I called 911 and texted Jay. By the time I rolled up, the crew was coiling hoses and my gate lock sat broken on the flagstones. The cops were there. The foreman said, "Homeowner hired us." "I'm the homeowner," I told him. "You weren't." The officers asked everyone to hang tight. We walked to the spring box, and I could see where they'd tapped the feed. The connection was friction fit, not glued. I levered it loose with a crowbar and lifted the pipe. On cue, CN's head popped over the fence. She shrieked that I was destroying her property, that we had a contract. She waved a sheet of paper, $2 a month for the water, signed. Except it wasn't signed by me. No signature line for me at all, and she wouldn't let the officers or me actually hold the page. The officers, to their credit, told everybody to back off, warned me not to damage anything else until the dust settled, and left. I called my attorney and sent her my footage. Even if she finds a crayon signature, my attorney said, that's not a contract. I planned to let the lawyers handle it. CN had other plans. The next afternoon, my peppers wilted like tissue and flame. When I followed the hose back to the stream, the soil smelled faintly sour. A few minutes later, I heard clanking next door. I peeked, CN at the edge of her yard, tipping a translucent gallon over the water. Vinegar. It flowed straight into all our backyards. I called Jay. He rallied the block. the neighbor kids dammed the streamlet with rocks and sticks upstream of CN's yard. Jay rolled out a drum to hold clean water. We tested pH above and below her property, almost a full point lower below. Dissolved oxygen way down, nitrates up. We warned everyone, no swimming, no watering, no dogs in the channel. I filed reports with the county environmental office and looped in a local watershed nonprofit. A cruiser pulled into CN's drive later that afternoon. She went to the station and came home red-faced, yelling over the fence that I'd ruined her life. Good. Petty revenge helped my blood pressure. I cut every length of stolen pipe I'd pulled and hired the copy/print shop to return them one piece at a time with signature required. She signed for every delivery. Then she stomped over, pounded my door, and declared I had to keep her property installed because we had an agreement. I showed the officer on the porch my camera clip of her kids in my tub and the plumbing crew breaking my lock. He gave her a trespass warning and told her to knock it off. You'd think that would be the crescendo. It was just the overture. CN had been trying to leverage her way into my hot spring for years, and when her adult son, whom she'd left with his father as a baby, got engaged, she engineered a fresh angle. First, she tried to hard plumb my spring. When that failed, she told the bride she had a natural healing spring at home and offered to host the bachelorette. When that failed, she volunteered my yard without telling me. A wedding invitation landed in my mailbox with a handwritten, "Thanks for offering your place." I took a photo, made a copy, and lit the copy on fire in the street while CN watched from her porch. Then I called the groom's dad, explained what his prodigal mother had been up to, and made an offer. The bridal party could use my yard for free under two conditions: no damage, full cleanup, and security would block CN at the wedding door. He called back the next day. "Deal," he said, and thank you. The bridesmaids rolled in with tasteful rentals and a cooler, and to my shock, tipped me thousands for ice runs and extra towels. CN tried to smoke them out with a backyard fire. No wind meant she marinated herself instead. At dusk, she accidentally hosed over the fence. The party still sparkled. When they left, they handed me a card stuffed with more thank yous. Jay wandered over, beaming. "Best this yard has ever looked," he said. Wedding day, CN showed up in a not-quite wedding white gown and tried to shoulder past security. They'd been briefed. She was denied. That's when she pivoted to me. I just returned from getting coffee and stupidly left my front door unlocked. She barged in and stormed up my stairs, spitting invective. I dialed 911 on speaker and backed away. She slapped me. I grabbed her wrist when she reared back again and hauled her down the hall toward the entry. She shrieked like a kettle. A patrol car rolled up as I pushed her over the threshold. They cuffed her on my porch for assault and criminal trespass and put her in the back seat while I gave my statement. My living room camera had caught the whole thing. So had my face. That was the moment the absurdity tipped into relief. The watershed nonprofit had already handed my stream test logs and video stills to the county. An investigator followed up about her vinegar stunt. The copy shop manifest showed she'd signed for each piece of returned pipe. The bogus contract never materialized in any demand letter. The court granted my restraining order, complete with a no-contact clause for her kids and clear language about the spring and the stream. Jay and the neighbor 2 doors down hired a landscaping crew to lay limestone along the channel to buffer any future acid dumps. The peppers I dug out recovered in tubs on the patio. I'll replant the beds next season. Most evenings, I sink into my hot water, watch dragonflies zig over the water, and listen to Jay's dog Dream bark across the fence. As for CN, she was arraigned on misdemeanor assault and trespass with an environmental citation pending. The DA offered diversion if she paid fines, completed anger management classes, and stayed off my property. She violated the stay order within a week, flipping my exterior breaker at dusk, and my cameras caught it. That yanked her diversion and tacked on a violation of a protective order. Her lawyer went quiet on the hot spring contract. Her son's wedding, by all accounts, was lovely without her. The best part isn't the charges, it's the way the block stitched itself together. Jay built the limestone riffles with the neighbor kids. The watershed folks are using our little crisis as a case study for stream stewardship, and I learned a simple lesson I wish I'd absorbed earlier. Document, don't debate. Locks, cameras, letters, tests. Let the paper trail speak while you sit in your own backyard and enjoy your own water. And when your neighbor tries to steal a hot spring, invite the bridesmaids instead. You did what 99% of us dream about. Documented everything, stayed calm, and let her dig her own legal grave. The vinegar stunt alone shows how off the rails she was. Like, ma'am, are you trying to start your villain origin story with salad dressing? Then the wedding fiasco? That was straight cinematic. Her showing up in not quite wedding white trying to crash your son's event? You can't imagine better chaos than that. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.